Remember when Google's motto was "Don't be evil" and tech companies competed on who had the coolest office slides and unlimited snacks? Well, that culture is dead. Something weird has happened in big tech in the last few years. Tech workers started describing their jobs using words like survival mode, pressure cooker, and finance hours, and in the place of hundreds of day-in-the-life videos is something that feels more like Goldman Sachs than Silicon Valley. Today, we're going to do an autopsy on big tech culture. Exactly what has changed at these big tech companies, why did it actually happen, and what is there to do about it? Before 2023, if you wanted to showcase the perfect work-life balance and make other people jealous of your career, you needed a ring light and a TikTok account documenting your day at a tech company. Your options were Google with their free gourmet meals, Meta with their on-site dessert shop, or maybe even Netflix with their TV and movie stars that would just stop by the office. And if you were lucky enough to get hired during the 2021 boom, these companies were practically throwing job offers at anyone who could spell the words JavaScript. Now, if you watch my previous video on tech jobs in 2025, you'll realize what happened next. When interest rates shot up from near zero to over 5%, the free money that funded tech's hiring spree disappeared overnight as companies prioritized profits over hyper growth. And the companies that had been hoarding developers like Pokemon cards suddenly realized that they had massively overhired. And the numbers were pretty staggering. Over 191,000 tech workers were laid off in 2023, followed by another 150,000 plus in 2024. And while the headlines focused on who got fired, a quieter story was unfolding for those who kept their jobs. Just 2 years later, at around the same time as those same tech companies were now posting record quarterly profits, something unexpected happened. The tech workers who survived the layoffs didn't just keep their jobs, they got rich. And that wealth created a trap that no one really saw coming. And to understand how this wealth trap actually works, you really need to know how tech compensation actually functions. Unlike other industries where you negotiate a salary, big tech companies use leveling systems that standardize pay regardless of current stock price. For example, when Meta hires a senior engineer at L5, they might offer $200,000 in base salary plus $600,000 in restricted stock units spread over 4 years, giving the engineer a total compensation of $350,000 per year. That $600,000 RSU grant stays the same whether Meta stock is trading at $100 or $700, as the company adjusts the number of shares, not the actual dollar value. So here's where it actually gets interesting. Take that exact same engineer who joined in late 2022 when Meta stock was trading at around $100 per share. Their $600,000 RSU grant translated to roughly 6,000 shares vesting over 4 years. And today, with Meta trading at above $700 per share, those same 6,000 shares are worth over $4.2 million if the engineers had stayed and never sold a single share. The engineer who was making a comfortable total comp of $350,000 suddenly found themselves sitting on life-changing wealth, but only if they had stayed for their full vesting schedule. This created what industry insiders have called golden handcuffs, and it's never been more drastic than now. Leaving your job didn't just mean finding a new role, it meant walking away from millions of dollars in unvested stock. And that same phenomenon has happened across the industry, from NVIDIA employees watching their stock options multiply by 1,200% over 2 years, and Amazon workers who have seen their similar windfalls as their stock has also doubled. The companies didn't plan this wealth creation by accident. By granting stock packages during market lows, they effectively locked in their best talent for years. And while this normally happens for startups that grow super fast and rely on early employees to get them there, it rarely happens with established companies like Meta and NVIDIA. It was brilliant for retention and life-changing for the engineers who stayed, but it fundamentally altered the employment relationship. So why did tech stocks actually dramatically recover so fast in the first place? The answer lies in what happens after the layoffs. See, the companies cut 20 to 30% of their workforce, discovered that they could maintain the same output with fewer people, which meant higher profit margins. Meanwhile, the AI boom of the last few years convinced investors that these leaner tech companies were perfectly positioned to capitalize on the next major technology shift. But this stock appreciation created an uncomfortable reality for the executives. If their employee compensation had effectively doubled overnight, how could they justify the same relaxed culture of day-in-the-life videos, free lattes, and hour-long lunch breaks? This created the foundation for something much bigger than just higher performance standards. While employees were getting locked into their roles by golden handcuffs, their CEOs were taking notes from an unexpected source. The unexpected source the executives were taking notes from were none other than the infamous Elon Musk and his takeover of Twitter. Within weeks of taking control in 2022, Musk fired approximately 80% of Twitter's 7,500 employees, reducing the workforce to roughly 1,500 people. Most industry observers expected the platform to collapse under the weight of such dramatic cuts. Critical systems would fail, user experience would degrade, and the site would become unusable. But instead, Twitter continued operating with minimal disruption. This outcome sent shockwaves throughout Silicon Valley boardrooms. If Twitter could function with 80% fewer employees, what did that say about staffing levels at other tech companies? Mark Zuckerberg was among the first to explicitly embrace this new philosophy. In 2023, he declared a year of efficiency and admitted in internal communications that since we reduced our workforce last year, one surprising result is that many things have gone faster. He specifically noted that the company had underestimated the indirect costs of having too many people and concluded that a leaner org will execute its highest priorities faster. And this wasn't just corporate speak, this was a fundamental shift in how Silicon Valley's operating principles had changed. The industry that had built its reputation on lavish employee perks and work-life balance was now openly celebrating the benefits of doing more with less. And the cultural transformation was swift and comprehensive. Companies began scaling back benefits that were previously considered standard. Normal travel and business class flights were downgraded to economy, generous wellness and entertainment budgets were reduced, team offsites and company retreats were canceled in favor of essential business activities only, and most significantly, the remote work flexibility that had become standard during the pandemic was systemically rolled back. And despite years of promoting work from home as a permanent cultural shift, companies began implementing increasingly strict mandates for returning back to office. Amazon announced a 5-day in-office requirement starting January 2025, despite internal surveys showing 90% plus of employees hated it. Google, Meta, and other major tech companies also followed with similar requirements. And companies also began retreating from some of the social initiatives that had defined the industry's progressive image, as Meta stopped committing to specific diversity targets and Google reduced references to DEI in corporate communications. But all of this combined didn't match up to the most significant change that we've seen in tech in 2025 so far. And that's been performance-based layoffs. Meta first led this trend with Mark Zuckerberg launching what he called performance layoffs in early 2025, cutting roughly 3,600 employees labeled as lowest performers. Zuckerberg explicitly stated the goal was to raise the bar on performance and remove those not meeting higher standards. Stripe also followed a similar approach by laying off 300 employees earlier this year despite strong business growth, citing role redundancy and misallocation. But the thing here is that these performance-based layoffs are not new. Microsoft actually had this back in the early 2000s, and it was called stack ranking system. And while unpopular at the time, and they eventually did get rid of it, it's now coming back in full force across almost all tech companies. The reason why is because the cuts really do serve a dual purpose. One was that they're eliminating employees with expensive golden handcuff packages that weren't meeting the bar based on how much they were making. But the second was to send a message to the remaining employees, which was that even profitable companies would eliminate workers who weren't considered A players, regardless of their compensation level or their tenure. And this naturally created the vibe shift in what employees describe as a survival mode mentality across teams. You'll see it everywhere in Blind and Reddit now. The cutthroat tech culture that was typically reserved for infamous companies like Amazon, Apple, Netflix has now spread to almost every other big tech company. And as one engineer has observed, the same amount of work or more now gets dumped on fewer people, and everyone is trying to prove that they deserve to stay because no one knows when the next round of cuts is coming. To be fair, there's another perspective on these changes. I would say that if you're in tech and you're earning $500K to $1 million plus per year, you probably do have to work pretty hard to justify that salary because there's not a lot of jobs that will be paying you $1 million plus. But it was pretty clear that tech had become way too comfortable during the easy money years, with many people admittedly coasting on high salaries while productivity stagnated. But the challenge really is that once you give people certain benefits and cultural freedoms, removing them creates inevitable friction. Companies found themselves in the difficult position of rebalancing expectations after years of perhaps being too permissive with performance standards. What emerged was a work culture that began resembling the high-pressure environment of investment banking and finance more than the relaxed atmosphere Silicon Valley was known for. As one engineer put it, software engineering in big tech feels more akin to investment banking now Most companies do expect this to be your life. The final force reshaping tech culture arrived in November 2022 with the release of ChatGPT. And yes, I'm going to be talking about AI again. As within days of its release, it became clear that generative AI represented an existential threat to every major tech company's competitive position. Google's response was swift. The company that had dominated search for over 2 decades suddenly found itself scrambling to compete with an AI chatbot that broke the record for reaching 100 million users. Internal reports described executives declaring a code red emergency with the fear that OpenAI would devour Google's money printing search business. And interestingly enough, a former Google employee revealed that leadership didn't care about fairness or ethics anymore, and was willing to take major shortcuts to accelerate the AI releases. But this urgency wasn't just limited to Google itself. Across Silicon Valley, the AI race created a make or break mentality, where companies believed they had to dominate artificial intelligence or risk being disrupted entirely. As one industry observer put it, either startups are going to disrupt the big companies, or the big tech incumbents will find ways to take over AI. Investors responded by pouring unprecedented amount of capital into tech stocks, driving prices even higher. But this investment came with the expectation of rapid returns and breakthrough products with AI. Companies that had committed to efficiency and higher performance standards now faced additional pressure to deliver transformative AI capabilities quickly. But that pressure wasn't just organizational. A lot of that pressure has now fallen into tech workers themselves. While AI has dominated headlines across social media, apps, and influencer content, this hype has created additional anxiety for tech workers about the professional relevance. For every existing tech worker who has spent years mastering traditional software development, product management, even data science, all of them have suddenly questioned whether their expertise would matter in 5 years. Many began treating every project as an opportunity to prove that they could integrate AI effectively or show value that AI couldn't replicate. But that anxiety has manifested in different ways, right? As one engineer has described it, if we don't work insanely hard right now, we might not have a job in a few years. And either our startup will eat our lunch or AI will make us irrelevant. This existential motivation has added yet another layer to the already demanding culture created by golden handcuffs and the efficiency obsession. And a lot of this urgency has been amplified by the top leading AI labs themselves. Dario Mode, the CEO of Anthropic, has suggested that AI could be capable of doing most programming tasks within the next 2 years. Similar forecasts from other leaders created a sense that the window for building wealth in tech might be rapidly closing. There's a feeling that tech workers need to maximize their earnings and achieve financial independence before AI potentially eliminates their roles entirely. And the irony is pretty stark. The same technology they were building might eventually come to replace them. And so this fear-driven competition has already intensified the already demanding work culture. When everyone believes they're racing against time to secure their financial future and collaboration gives way to competition, individual performance becomes paramount as tech workers position themselves as indispensable among stack ranking and performance-based layoffs. The result is a perfect storm that's feeding upon itself right now. Employees trapped by valuable stock grants, working in an efficiency-obsessed culture, now also racing to stay ahead of AI disruption. Junior and entry-level talent are getting shut out of the market while also competing for limited tech roles, and the more competitive the environment becomes, the more intense the work culture would grow. And the more intense the culture becomes, the more workers feel like they need to compete to survive. What has emerged is a tech industry that bears little resemblance to the employee paradise it had once been. The promise of work-life balance, creative freedom, and relaxed culture has been replaced by something far more demanding and far more uncertain. The technology sector has essentially created its own anxiety-driven ecosystem where the fear of AI replacement drove the very intensity that made the work environment unsustainable. But here's the thing about disruption. It also creates opportunity. While big tech culture has become more demanding, that same AI that's creating anxiety in a lot of tech workers is also opening up tons of different roles in AI engineering, a field that we've seen that is skyrocketing over the last year and a half. For example, companies like Klarna have used AI to increase profits by $40 million. And imagine being the person that actually spearheaded that project. So the question isn't whether AI will change your career, but more so if you're going to be prepared for that change. And that's the reason why I'm launching Outskill.ai, a new personalized AI course for anyone that wants to begin their career in AI engineering. Now, I know it sounds pretty terrible, another AI course from another guru influencer, but here's the main reason why this course is going to be different from anything else that I've ever developed. For one, We've narrowed down the 6 most important projects right now in this day and age that data scientists, data analysts, software engineers are all going to need to know for their preparation in AI and delivering business impact with AI. But the second more important thing is that the reason why I had so much fun creating this course was because I created something that was personalized based off of your specific background and history. And so the course actually uses AI to actually personalize the exercises based on your goals and also the content in a lot of these labs and for the end project that you're delivering. And the reason why I can do it now and build this kind of course is because AI has gotten so good. If you're ready to stop worrying about AI and want to start building with it instead, please check out outskill.ai. I'm launching it in the beginning of July, and so most companies will definitely reimburse this as a learning and development expense. And so if you don't know if they have that or not, then just ask your HR department. I had a ton of fun creating this course. So at the end of the day, for me, I learned a lot about AI while actually building it, even though I had known a lot about this before. And so I'm super excited to release it. Lastly, if you really enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I read a lot of these comments. A lot of you guys have very interesting comments, and I try to respond to the ones that intrigue me. If you guys still don't think AI is the future, I hate to break it to you, but it really is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.